Our big story tonight at 9, fed up and fighting back. Deputies in Fond du Lac County say they know who is responsible for a shot that nearly killed a 7-year-old Campbellsport girl. Another letter was sent out, but when it arrived at the new address, Erdman wasn't living there. That's a violation of his parole. They're not familiar with the man at the center of this standoff and tell us he has no criminal record. Breaking news tonight, we're told a Milwaukee police squad car has been involved in an accident. I've referred to this in the past as the Jeremy Ross wind measurer thingamajiggy 6000. Certainly not high tech, but it demonstrates the kind of wind we're seeing out here. All the parties are pretty much on the same page. I'm apparently making lots of friends out here. Thanks, man. We're live at Summerfest. Jeremy Ross, Fox 6 News. Tonight's big story at 9, a Mount Pleasant motorcycle crash sends 2 to the hospital. 13-year-old boy killed in front of his house is laid to rest. Friends and family pack the All People Lutheran Church in Milwaukee to say goodbye to Darius Simmons. Investigators say Simmons was approached by his 75-year-old neighbor, John Spooner. Spooner accused the teen of stealing, then shot him. Attorney General Eric Holder appointed 2 U.S. attorneys to investigate recent national security leaks. You Decide coverage now. Tuesday's loss is still stinging, but Wisconsin Democrats say they are ready for the next round. The state party's convention continued today in Appleton. Fox 6's A.J. Bayatpour talked to delegates who say they've already shaken off the recall results. With Greece near financial collapse, the stakes are higher and the temperatures are running hotter. Watch as verbal jabs become physical ones. If you wonder when chivalry died, I present Exhibit A.
That was a woman!
Yes, he hit a woman. Translated, he called the woman an old, quote, commie, and she called him, quote, a criminal. This was on live morning television in Athens. The guy who went on the attack, by the way, facing assault charges.
Good. That gets hot.
Now, granted, Washington, D.C. basically on a swamp, so you get the high humidity out there, so it can be a pretty hot place to be hanging around in.
Listen to this weather guy, Justin.
Oh, no, I'm not taking that gig.
You don't even need me. I'm just going to go take off.
That's that, guys. No, please come back. Please come back. I can't even say dew points with a straight face on the air. The film from 1968 shows glimpses of protest.
They were burning draft cards.
Demonstrations surrounding the war in Vietnam, and on November 21st of that year, President Lyndon Johnson was in the White House. And a Milwaukee trio was in custody. The newspaper called it a slaying. Then 18-year-old Melvitine Lampkins and 2 others played a part in a grocery store robbery. The article described gun whipping and shots fired. One man apparently did not move fast enough for the robbers.
Took a sawed-off shotgun and shot him in the chest.
Who shoots a 78-year-old man in a grocery store?
It was point-blank range. He put the shotgun right to his chest and pulled the trigger.
78-year-old John Adornato was shopping with his wife.
He was a gentle soul. He was a lover of people.
He was rushed from the area of Buffalo Center to a hospital. The intern at the emergency room knew there was nothing he could do, and that intern just happened to be one of Adornato's 11 grandchildren.
It took us by such shock.
Another of his grandchildren, Celia Dodge, describes the impact of the murder.
It devastated them. It really did. It broke the family apart.
The robbers were caught and convicted of the crime, including Melvitine Lampkins.
She was the lookout for the robbery.
Michelle Herrings of the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force says Lampkins was sentenced to life in prison plus 60 years, but was given the chance to attend school during that time. Lampkins took advantage of the opportunity, and Herrings says she escaped in 1976 and somehow managed to escape again in 1979.
Her whereabouts and activities have been unknown since.
How could someone be missing out of a jail cell, out of a prison for 30 years?
Yes, I think they deserve an explanation.
I'd like to point a finger. I wouldn't know where to start.
A crime taking place during a time of unrest and conflict. The fugitive bringing additional unrest to a family decades later.
I don't feel vindictive, but I do feel she needs to be found.
In between the stretch of road connecting Rome and Sullivan, Wisconsin, thousands assemble.
Look at the big fish.
We got some nice looking floats today. You're going to enjoy it.
They watch and witness something in between madness and genius.
What is that?
lunacy and laughter,
Somebody got run over or something. Who cares?
anarchy, and artistry.
It's not a normal parade.
If you consider Dan Boss an artist,
It's showtime.
then his paintbrush is his Bobcat.
Faster, slower. Now you might have to just lower the hair once it gets up 4 or 5 feet. Back her up.
If you'd call Boss a sculptor,
Looks nice.
then he's welding or melding machinery
Killer.
into a not-so-perfect piece, ready to roll out on display.
PVC pipe that's all haggard. A Batmobile car.
Double-decker school bus, huh?
Oh yeah, I forgot there's a pontoon boat on top too.
Welcome aboard the maiden voyage of the Big Johnson. Welcome to the 2011 Junk Parade.
It's amazing how much junk people have.
Something you don't see very often.
There are dozens of floats, each with a theme.
This is Junk Vegas.
Welcome to Junk Vegas.
Formed from a calamity of clutter, cocktail of adrenaline, engineering, and alcohol.
There's a little bit of beer involved always.
A mix of machismo, mechanized machinery, and did we mention alcohol?
A lot of alcohol, mostly alcohol.
We'd like to tell you this display is dedicated to the responsibility of recycling, but
It's about being irresponsible.
It's just about having fun.
It's the most fun we have all year. That's how boring life is around here.
the community gets a return on their refuse.
It's a good way to raise some money.
Funds collected here go to the Sullivan Area Chamber of Commerce and local first responders.
Oh, look at this.
And firefighters are about to earn that cash as a Ford F-150 disguised as a big mouth bass catches fire.
A fatality?
Bass is gutted,
Casualty.
but this fish gets hooked on a line and towed away fine. Success is sometimes measured in merely getting to the end of the parade.
I'm a betting man and I have confidence in my junk.
To make it to the finish line. If we cross there safely, we'll be fine.
But it's a junk parade. You never know what they'll do.
Redefining the phrase art is what you make of it. Proving one man's trash is another man's pleasure.
Looks almost beautiful.
Jeremy Ross, Fox 6 News.
One domino splits off into several.
Imagine each domino represents a message. Place one down, only to have it become two.
And it goes from 2 to 400 in a very big hurry.
A virus is a very good analogy. Viruses spread, they can spread very quickly.
But what if each of these dominoes was actually a nude picture?
It's absolutely out of control.
Copied and forwarded with a velocity barely bound by gravity. Porn propagated by the speed of cell phone messaging. Just like that, an old-fashioned game like dominoes gets very serious very fast as it turns into the modern practice called sexting.
She is currently being charged with a Class I felony.
This man has a 13-year-old daughter. To protect her identity, we're not identifying him. The teen is accused of sending nude and semi-nude pictures of herself to her boyfriend.
It was an act to show him that she cared.
But like most sexting cases, the images sent from a cell phone didn't stay private.
He had gotten the photos, he started to forward them on to other boys.
Her father says she was pressured to produce more pictures or face being exposed, but the coercion ended after this dad did a random check of his 13-year-old cell phone.
I looked through the first number of photos and I found her in her underwear. We made the decision as a family to take her to the police, and we turned her in.
Is that the hardest thing you've ever had to do?
Yes.
When images of children under 18 get forwarded around, each of those people that knowingly possesses that is potentially guilty of possession of child pornography.
Waukesha County District Attorney Brad Schimmel is not involved in this girl's case, but his office is considering charges in another sexting incident where a picture was forwarded or shared with about 150 cell phones. With only a few buttons pressed, every cell phone owner could end up sharing a criminal record.
That's a felony. If the individual possessing it is under 18, it's an I felony, a low felony. If it is a person over 18, it's a higher level felony, up to 25 years of incarceration for one image. And we could charge for each individual image.
4 pictures could mean up to a lifetime behind bars. Those who do get released from prison have to register as a sex offender.
She's a 4.0 student. She's got everything going for her in her life. Within seconds, she could have destroyed a large portion of that.
Let some of these kids try to get into a good school or get a good job with that kind of baggage. It's not going to happen.
Investigators like Special Agent Eric Zetkowski of the Wisconsin Department of Justice are seeing an alarming increase in the crime.
Now it has reached an epidemic.
His first concern is for the victim. His next worry is if the cell phone image finds its way onto the internet. Adding those pictures can be found online.
Forever, forever. For the kids who are in these pictures, they've already been sentenced to a psychological life in prison, because you got to tell these kids that their pornographic pictures could very well be on the internet, all over the internet, traded, shared, looked at by perverts, pedophiles, and predators all over the world, perverts that haven't even been born yet. Okay, that's a pretty heavy psychological burden for a child to carry.
That burden played a large part in this girl seeking out counseling.
This is not easy. I'm certain that we're not an isolated incident.
The National Campaign to Prevent Teen and Unplanned Pregnancy reports 20% of teenagers say they have sent or posted nude or semi-nude pictures or videos of themselves.
I'm disturbed about those statistics, and I wonder if they're even on the low end of reality.
We're going to exercise judgment and try to look at the intent of the individuals involved, the age.
Meantime, prosecutors like Schimmel find themselves evaluating if a case of sexting is the result of a juvenile impulse or a deviant criminal act. The difference can be subtle. The charging decision he calls unique to each individual case.
I can tell you this, the person that is responsible for the initial distribution of the image is probably going to have a big problem.
In this 13-year-old situation, there is a way to avoid a juvenile record and sex offender label. Her father says if she never takes part in sexting again and stays on the right side of the law for 6 months, prosecutors will drop the charge. As for the boys who received her images,
the further out you get as the dominoes spread, probably the less exposure to criminal responsibility.
It's unclear what, if any, charges they face for possessing pictures that could topple a teen's future.
It's absolutely out of control. It's going to get worse.
When do the dominoes stop falling?
Hopefully before my kids get to be teenagers.